our citizen input meeting. And I'm going to be turning the meeting over to our chair, Scott Halipka. But before I do that, I'd like to everybody to introduce themselves, the department heads, starting from our gentleman at the right.
You.
Good evening, I'm Bob Smith. I'm the Deputy Director of Recreation and Storage Operations.
Good evening, Laura Riley, Director of Department of Youth. Good evening, Joanne Rod.
Good evening, I'm Deborah Schindel, and I'm the County Property Manager with ODF.
My voice is horrible right now, so I'm going to try to project. Lauren Buckler, Deputy Director for Public Works and Transportation.
Brady Locker, Deputy Director of Environmental.
Dan Kalazek, acting Bureau Chief for Professional Standards, representing IAM.
Good evening, Chris Martin, Deputy Director of Office of Information Technology.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone who's here, both from the county and citizens. The citizen input meeting for the fiscal year 2024-2029 capital budget and program is now called to order. My name is Scott Halupka. I'm chair of the Planning Board Committee on the Capital Improvement Budget and Program. Tonight, the Planning Board will conduct this public meeting to allow county citizens, businesses, and community groups an opportunity to express their concerns related to the capital program. The comments submitted to the board generated at tonight's meeting will be considered by the board and county agencies as the process proceeds and capital budget requests are formulated. We will start the meeting with a roll call to account for the present members of the board. When you hear your name, please say aye. Ms. Hafford?
Aye.
Ms. Pinero?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Wolfson?
Aye.
Mr. McGinnis?
Aye.
Mr. Heckman?
Aye.
Mr. Heinel? Mr. Perlow? Mr. Caligari?
Aye.
Mr. Fotis is not here. Mr. Airy?
Aye.
And Ms. German.
Aye.
Thank you. Tonight, Jennifer Meacham from the Department of Planning will give a brief overview of the capital budget and program process. Then we will hear from those who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. I want to remind all speakers that you will have 2 minutes to speak on your issue when the time comes. We will now hear from Ms. Meacham.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, department heads, and representatives. My name is Jen Meacham, and I will give you a brief summary of the Capital Improvement Program process. The Capital Improvement Program, CIP, is a multi-year planning program of capital expenditures needed to replace or expand the county's public infrastructure. It's a 6-year plan that is updated each year. The capital budget is the term used to indicate the first year of the capital program. Capital project involves the construction of physical and permanent improvements for public use. A project can also be a park or a major maintenance project or land acquisition, as well as government buildings such as schools, libraries, police, and fire stations. There are many benefits to having a capital program. It allows the county to plan ahead for the construction of facilities and how they will be funded. It also allows the county to look at all the projects together, which allows priorities to be established and enables the county to coordinate the timing and funding of projects. A good example of this is if a road needs to be repaved and the water main under the pavement needs to be relined, the county will schedule the relining project to be completed first. It also fosters cooperation with other governments. A good example of this is the cooperation between the county and the Maryland State Highway Administration for implementing streetscape projects. The CIP is also a tool for implementing the master plan as well as community plans that call for capital improvements. Funding for capital projects comes from a number of different sources. Capital funding sources include the general fund, which is the money that the county collects from taxes, and from general obligation bonds, which is the money that the county borrows. The Metropolitan District Fund and bonds come from the Regional Metropolitan District, which constructs and maintains water and sewer facilities. Other funding comes from special assessments that are targeted for specific types of improvements. Outside funding can come from a variety of sources. Some are federal funds and some are state. For some projects, developers contribute funding, in others where the county was petitioned to provide the improvement, such as a sidewalk or alleyways, the petitioner contributes a portion of the funding. This bar chart illustrates the amounts of funding supplied through each of the major funding sources. The bulk of the funding comes through bonds, both general obligation and metropolitan. This bar chart depicts the amount of expenditures that are planned for the current 6-year program by category. Of the over $3.1 billion total, sewer system projects have the highest amount, followed by schools and water system projects. Other projects, government buildings, and streets and highways. And the other projects categories includes community colleges, community improvements, bridges, culverts, and grade separations, storm drains, refuse disposal, land preservation, waterway improvements, parks preservations, and greenways. This flow chart depicts the county's annual budgeting process. There are actually 2 budgets, the current expense or operating budget, as well as the capital program budget process. The planning board is only involved in the capital program process. The CIP process is laid out by the county code. The first step is the citizen input meeting. Following the citizen input meeting, the agencies that have a capital budget formulate the request for the coming update. The budget office then forwards the request to the planning board. The planning board reviews the program, formulates its recommendations, and sends them back to the budget office. When the upcoming fiscal year is one where a referendum will be held, the planning board also forwards its recommendations for the borrowing amounts. The budget office reviews the planning board recommendations with the county administrative officer. The program is then reviewed by the county executive. At least 30 days, but no more than 90 days prior to the submission of the proposed budget to the county council, the county executive shall hold at least 2 public hearings in 2 separate geographic locations. The county executive then presents the capital budget and program along with the current expense budget and a budget message to the county council. The budget message contains an explanation of any projects that were modified from the planning board recommendations. The county council holds a public hearing, which is another opportunity for public input, and then votes to approve the budget and program by June 1st. The planning board has the ability to add, modify, or delete projects and funding amounts, while the county council can only decrease deleted or delete projects. This is why it's important to have citizen input at the beginning of the process. Bond money is approved by the voters every 2 years. The upcoming process is an off year because the bond levels for projects will not be approved by voters this election. You're welcome.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Beecham? If not, next I will call on those who have completed the sign-in sheet that was located in the front of the lobby and in the order in which you were registered. Ms. Bensley will read out the names. Let me remind everyone to limit your comments to 2 minutes. Also, please be sure to provide your name and if you're with an organization, what organization you're with. Let me also remind people here and those who might be watching later that written comments can be submitted to the Department of Planning up to November 1st, and those will also be taken into consideration. Ms. Bensley, do you want to call them?
Thank you.
They come up and sit next to you.
Yes, so if you're signed up to speak, you can come up and sit here. We have a microphone directly in front of it. And our first speaker is Mr. Tom Murtaugh.
Thank you, board members. My name is Tom Murtaugh. I am president of the Baltimore Senior Center Council, and our vice president, Mary Lou Stensley, is also in attendance. Baltimore Senior Center in West Towson is an old school building that is nearly 100 years old. It's been retrofitted here and there to meet the needs of a senior center. Many of our nearly 2,000 members walk with assisted devices such as canes, rollators, and even wheelchairs. The Baltimore Senior Center would like first to request remodeling to our first floor restrooms. The only bathroom that meets ADA requirements is a single toilet inside of a classroom where programs are often being held. This room is at the furthest end of the building and a long hall for some seniors to walk. It is disruptive to the program going on and sometimes awkward for the restroom user. The group restrooms with multiple toilets are located more towards the middle of the building, but the stalls are too narrow and retrofitted with handrails on both sides, making the interior stall space even narrower. Our second request would be for a new permanent awning at the front of the building. The current one is rusty and even leaks in some places. We have many members who either sit outside waiting for rides or get dropped off and have to navigate the long ramp to access the building in all kinds of weather. They're our requests, and we hope you'll look upon them favorably. Thank you.
Before the next person speaks, I also want to remind people there is a 2-minute clock that, so you can monitor your time.
Next up, we have Charlie Hopa. Hopa? Oh, that's a good way to remember it.
Hello, board members. Thank you for giving me the time to speak. I'm president of Ricestown Improvement Association, and we are currently at Maryland Main Street. We go from the unit block up to the 400. And what we're trying to do is new neighborhood design assessment. And as we do that, we realize we're trying to attract pedestrian traffic to the street and everything else. And we have a couple items that I'd like to talk about real quick. And I did submit this on paper already or email to Ms. Meacham, I think it is. So you have the full copy, so I'll do the summary. But the idea here is to attract people and make it a safe environment. Along the 200 and 300 block, we still have bricks in the sidewalk, which is a very uneven surface. We find if we can get that to a smoother surface, especially encouraging people to come, it's a safer environment for all people to be able to travel along those sidewalks. That's one of the items. And we look at some of these as short-term and then some as long-term. Another short-term is the crosswalks. Visibility, people just, myself sometimes I don't see it. So we need to make more visible so as we get this traffic going through town, we have a safer environment, not only for the pedestrians, but also for the drivers too, because how many accidents are created when you have a situation where people don't see people coming across the street. The third one we actually is Woodley Avenue. There's a Baltimore County open space that was just purchased. We'd like to see that developed into a passive park. We have one behind our headquarters at 202 Main, something where people can bring their families, just enjoy the afternoon or whatever. And we need some type of access to that because it's off of Main Street. So we see those as short-term ideas. Longer-term projects would be parking. As we develop this plan for neighborhood design, we expect more people to come and shop. So we need parking. We have some street parking, but there may be some changes in the way the traffic flow goes. So we have that. And I think utilities, we'd like to get those below ground. Thank you. Okay.
Next, we have Greg Barton.
Good afternoon, Liberty Man Association Vice President. We have 279 residents that BG&E came in and did some construction on our roads that we just had paid one prior year. They came the next year and actually tore up our roads, and it's still like this today. Okay. We are actually outraged. 200. We have got older residents that when they walk out, their house is terrible. They complain. We had one about a year ago fell because of what BG&E have done. We have a lot of water damage, side curbs, and we looking to get that redone. Thank you.
Next,
I remind everybody to speak up so everybody in the room can hear what you're saying. As a former high school coach, I learned how to do that.
Next, we have Mildred Owens.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here today to speak. I'm the Liberty Manor Community Association president. And I'm here to speak about something similar to what my vice president was stating to you a few minutes ago, and is that in 2018, Kevin Cabinets, God bless his soul, had, after 40 years, had our streets resurfaced, new lights put in, all new curbs, started on the sidewalks, but by winter, when winter was over, they were coming back. All new aprons, driveway aprons, because it was awful. And when he had all of that done, 2 years later, less than 2 years, a year later, BGE came in and was supposed to make us whole, made it worse. One street caved in from 3 years of running water. We got harmful algae blooms where people were getting sick. A few people have died. We don't know whether it was from there or not. And they came back, didn't tell us anything, and promised to keep us in the link, and messed up our roads. He had tried to hide the road cave-in where someone could have died, and they still have not placed it back like it's supposed to be, the road next to the driveway coming apart from the road. I mean, the sidewalks coming apart. So we need to have our streets, everything renewed and resurfaced, because it's awful. And we paid over $2 million for 40 years, all of us, 273 homes in this two-way entrance to get in. So, okay. So I thank you, but I do have something, if you want to, I want to leave, I made an extra copy to leave with you, if you would like to have it.
Yep. I'll make sure that this gets to the board
Yes,
email.
yes. Thank you.
Next, we have Charles Bogdanowitz.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Bogdanowitz, and I'm the Vice President of the Jacksonville Senior Center Council. I am here tonight to request the county to appropriate the necessary funds for the construction of a new Jacksonville Senior Center building. While the Department of Aging has upgraded us from a community center to a regional center due to our increased membership, we cannot effectively offer the variety or scope of services that a regional center would normally provide because of our limited space. The county has already completed a feasibility study, and funds have been appropriated in next year's budget to complete the detailed architectural and engineering drawings required for bidding. We are now requesting the capital funds to build out our new building. The original project estimate several years ago was $4.5 million. This is a shovel-ready project in that the new building will be built on existing county property and would utilize the current parking, infrastructures, and curb cuts. We could continue to occupy our existing building during the new construction without any interruptions to our operations. As a bonus, the Department of Rec and Parks, who share this site, could utilize our space when we relocate. The maturing population in the northern tier of District 3 is aging in place and will depend more and more on the types of services and activities that the Department of Aging and the Jacksonville Senior Center offers. I want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Next, we have Patricia Griffin.
Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patricia Griffin, and I'm here on behalf of the Fleming Senior Center, which is in the Dundalk Station area. We, the council and center members, have many concerns about the safety and the beautification of our center. The Fleming Senior Center stands in need of much work and attention that would help bring the premises up to basic standard code regulations and to also enhance its beauty. We need structural changes, which would include new allocation of space. For example, we need additional storage space. We also need additional bathroom stalls, which also includes improved exhaust ventilation. Illumination around the building for the purposes of increased security. We need modernized electrical service. We also need improved Wi-Fi. We cannot even pick up basic email or Facebook or Twitter to communicate outside of the building. We need to realign the handicap door from open door to sliding doors. We have wheelchairs that can't get through. Well, you know, they have to finagle their way through. And we also would like to ask that you consider the inclusion of awnings on the building, which would help to improve the appearance of the building, thus enhancing beautification of the surrounding neighborhood. So these are our needs and concerns. We ask that you review them all and take steps to make these necessary changes to our most beloved senior center. Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Ann Jones.
Sit all the way in the back. Anyway. Good evening, and thank you for being here this evening. My name is Ann Jones, and I'm representing the Baltimore County Land Trust Alliance. The Baltimore County Land Trust Alliance is comprised of representatives of the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, the Manor Conservancy, the Land Preservation Trust, the Long Green Land Trust, and Neighbor Space Baltimore County. Collectively, our organizations work to protect farms, streams, forests, parks, and open space throughout the county. Over the years, we've been awarded Maryland Rural Legacy Funds to protect more than 8,000 acres, and these are state funds that had no match or no requirement from the county in our 4 rural legacy areas. Thanks to the renewed commitment that has come along from the Planning Board and the county to fund land preservation this year, the state awarded more than $5.5 million in Maryland Rural Legacy Funds to Baltimore County Land Trust. And that's a significant increase that more than matched the amount of funds that were that were allocated by the state, by the county. Land preservation protects multiple resources throughout the county. It's the land around our reservoirs. It's an agricultural industry, which is a major economic driver of the entire county. Agritourism is certainly a new sector that also has a lot to do with the quality of life. The pandemic demonstrated the tremendous demand for local food and outdoor recreation. We thank you for the funding that has been done, and we strongly support the proposed 2-year, $6.5 million allocation proposed in the 2004 budget, which about gets us back to where we were about 20 years ago. So we would ask for increased funding over and above that $6.5 million, and we appreciate what's been done, and we thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. And then last up, we have Nancy Goldring. No? Sounds good, as long as we have it by November 1st. November 1st. That's it for speakers.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for their attendance tonight. Board member? Mr. Eric?
I have a question. I've heard about BGE, like disturbing areas, but they are required to restore those areas. Am I correct? When they come to do the work and they disturb your areas, your roads, aren't they supposed to put them in proper condition before leaving? Have you, a community, do you work with BGE to require that you have to?
I've done all of that. it was a one-way street for communication. I told us some paperwork that I just handed out here. They had that paperwork. We met. They promised, the one that was working with us, he just got promoted. And there's another person, you know, so I've been dealing with this for 4 years. June. And it's, you know, it's humiliating just to talk about the things that they put forth and never did. And they didn't, we have 270 homes. I understand they performed 171 repairs throughout there. But when I went to Mission Utilities, I found out we had over 400 repairs. And they came in under one pretext. They had a pretext they were going to do a service in our homes, and we had to make an appointment. And when we made the appointment to let them in, they came in and started digging and everything. And water and all kind of damages. Some people's homes, they went in 16 times, some even more. And I think they just used us as a get-rich fix. Because we didn't hear anything from them until they put the knockers on our doors and said, make an appointment with us. We're going to come into your home and you put something in, like the lack of wiring or something.
Well, I'd have to defer probably to Public Works because, well, it depends on who the contract was with and was it purely BGE? Was it done in conjunction with Public Works for utility repairs? I don't know enough of that.
Public Works.
BGE is supposed to make the repairs, so BGE has to get utility cut permits through Baltimore County. They're supposed to be making repairs. I can look at that address and we can see what the permit was, if that was done under.
They came in January before that, and they didn't resurface with through patches across the roads. So patches are all across the road, and then they had this tar running from one street to the other.
May I suggest perhaps Ms. Bucklow can meet with the young woman offline and get more details and then perhaps follow up.
But it's really, it's awful. One man even came to a meeting, he said, I was trying to move to your community, but if that's all what you did, I'm not moving.
Well, I think Ms. Bucklow can be a great resource for you.
Board members? Not hearing any. There are no further questions. This concludes our public hearing. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The meeting is now adjourned.
And thank you all for coming this evening.
Farmer's Club.